Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary. Now, last time we worked on our mini monster battler, several new monsters and new moves were added. These included a lot of rounded creatures with varying abilities that blew things up, did some healing, and of course that one move that is completely random. These additions also brought with them status effects, so monsters could be poisoned or stunned, just to name a few. Overall, more chaos for an already chaotic experience, which only gets more chaotic with today's venture. So remember to leave a like if you enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and make sure notifications are on so you never miss future videos. Now, today's focus was on the player and their role in this experience, starting with the fact that they can now throw rocks and bait. These are in fact inspired by Pokemon Safari Zone, but in order to understand their purpose, we need to turn to the monsters themselves, because they are no longer immortal. And not only does that mean these monsters now take damage from each other's attacks, but elemental weaknesses and resistances have also been added. So when a monster is damaged, their type is checked to the type of the move, and much like Pokemon, depending on how they stack up, the damage received is altered. So weaknesses do double damage, resistances halves the damage, and normal attacks remain the same. This system is very basic because I'm not looking to recreate the minutia of Pokemon's battle system, and I'm also really bad at math, so we're not even going to try to attempt to add anything crazy. And in case it weren't obvious, numbers now appear anytime a monster's health is altered, with red representing weakness, gray representing resistance, white representing neutral, and green representing healing. Now, monsters that continue to take damage will obviously reach a knockout state. When the state is triggered, the monster stops whatever it's doing and becomes unresponsive. Any downed monsters are no longer targeted for attack, cannot receive status effects, and in the case of being player owned, need to be revived manually, which is done with a simple press of the E key when near. Enemy monsters, on the other hand, will eventually revive themselves after enough time has passed. And anytime a monster is revived, half their max HP is restored. And this is where the rocks and bait come into play. Once an enemy monster has been downed, the player can then throw either rocks or bait at said monster. Hitting the monster with a rock will remove it from the play area, while throwing bait will instead add that monster to the player's team of existing monsters. Which, funny enough, because this was added on the fly, simply removes the old enemy monster and replaces it with an allied clone. And of course, while anything thrown will be consumed on contact with a downed monster, those that miss can be recollected with ease using a nice little vacuum effect. So with these additions, it feels like the player has taken on a support role of sorts. The role may expand to also include the ability to heal if we continue down this path, because while this does help us move closer to actually figuring out what this game is, the player's role still doesn't feel like it matters, at least as a physical entity. So maybe we ditch the physical player and make it more of a god game? This is why today's episode is on the shorter end, because other than making our monsters mortal, which is absolutely necessary, we're still nowhere closer to figuring out just what the overall experience should be. And so I'd love to know what you think of the additions and where we should be heading next. So leave any and all thoughts in the comments. You can also play previous games featured on the channel and get early access to weekly videos by subscribing to my Patreon. And with that said, brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.